Hey everybody, how are you today? This is Sean. Hey, I wanted to take a few minutes of your time today and talk a little bit kind of about what matters most to you, what your personal drive or ambition is. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail here in just a second, but maybe I want to start off with a bit of an anecdote around what in the world led me to the topic that I want to talk about today. So, my journey through life has taken kind of an unexpected turn this year. It's taken an unexpected turn this year, and I find myself making a complete career change. Lots of digging deep and soul searching on what I wanted to do moving forward through the rest of my years into retirement, right? I've mentioned in past posts that I had spent my entire career aspiring to hit a particular level, a particular title within the human resources field. And finally hit that, and once I did, kind of looked left and looked right and realized, that probably wasn't exactly what my life's purpose was, right? It was a bit more of an extrinsic motivation. And what I'm finding is that as I get further along in life, that it is more important to also focus on those intrinsic needs. Not that there's still not going to be extrinsic things that people want, but I think the more personal drive and fulfillment starts to outweigh some of the things that perhaps I thought were more important when I was younger. So with that, right, I find myself in this new career, trying to kickstart that, awfully humbling. I've learned a lot about myself in the process. I'm learning daily more about people. And I think my key takeaway thus far, and it's one that, I probably tried to do, but I don't know that I was committed to doing, is really putting the needs of others first. And realizing that if I do that, then my needs do become met, right? Intrinsically for sure, and really extrinsically, right? It all kind of falls into place. So I'm learning to try to live my life for a bigger purpose, to put others' needs before mine, and finding that that's typically how then my needs are met. So had a bit of an epiphany just yesterday. And for those of you that happen to tune in on Facebook and watch my posts, first, thank you for that. Hopefully I'm providing something to you, whether it's entertainment, whether it's a little bit of motivation, whether I've got some anecdotes or things that you take away. We'll continue to do them. Hopefully I'll get better as I go. But for those of you that are watching, you'll know that Curtis Hooper, a buddy of mine from high school, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps, he was participating in the 22 push-ups for 22 days to raise awareness around veteran suicide. And in doing so, right, every day he would do his 22 push-ups, and then he would nominate somebody who then would spend their 22 days and nominate a person a day, and it carries and carries and carries. So I was honored when he tapped me to participate in that. So I've been doing my daily posting. I think I was on day 6 today. But yesterday something interesting happened. There was a shipmate of mine as well as a high school classmate, Kevin Billings, and and I'm glad he did this, right? But he put something interesting on my post below the video afterwards, and he simply said, and I'm paraphrasing, "It's great that you're raising awareness, but what are you doing, right? So now everybody's aware of the problem, but what's the call to action? What are you doing about the problem?" And I thought for a minute, I thought, that that kind of hit home, especially as a veteran. I'm like, okay, well, great. Am I really doing this for others, or am I doing this more for myself, that I'm cranking out these push-ups and putting something out on my post and everybody's tuning in and watching me? Again, back to my point, and I didn't really overthink it, but I'm thinking about it now. Was that move on my part more extrinsically motivated, or was it more intrinsically motivated, right? So, I thought I've got to make a call to action for myself, and so with that, have made the decision that I'm in the midst of starting up 2 small businesses. So I don't have a lot right now to give, but I anticipate growing these things, and I want my contribution to grow with the business. I'm dedicating 5% of my earnings to the Folds of Honor, which is a philanthropy here locally. A gentleman named Major Dan Rooney runs that institution. It is national in scope, but there's certainly a great deal of local support here in Tulsa, Oklahoma for that. And that philanthropy, what it does is it provides scholarships for kids that have parents that served in the military that were either killed in action, missing in action, or were permanently disabled as a result of their service. So one, I'm a huge proponent of education. I'm absolute advocate for our military, and I could think of no finer cause or something that I would be proud of intrinsically to participate in than the Folds of Honor. So they reached out to me. I emailed this morning. I got an email response within about 5 minutes, and I meet with them tomorrow to talk about what I need to do to get that set up. So, but again, I think that first of all, I'm grateful, right, that Kevin Billings put that out there for me and shaped my mindset on that, right? But I struggle a little bit, with the notion that, how do people take that? Do they view it as what the intention is, or do they view it as some kind of a gimmick or manipulation to get my brand out? And at the end of it, I thought, you know what, I don't really care, because I know in my heart what that means to me, what it signifies, and what I hope to achieve with it. And quite frankly, this one of the companies that I'm working with now has a handy book here, and I know this is backwards, right? But it says "Establish Your Why," and this is kind of a getting started action plan book, eight steps for success. And you hear all kinds of great stories of what people's why statement is, and some of them, as I hear them, they are a bit more indicative of what maybe mine looked like whenever I was younger. It's about an aspiration of something that they want to achieve. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a house, yada yada yada. But for me, as I struggled at first, guys, my why statement was, well, I want to pay the rent. I want to put food on the table for my family. I want to have a little left over to do some fun stuff. But my why statement has become crystal clear here probably within about the last week. And, a big piece of the motivation for me was I had spent a disproportionate amount of my time at the office or traveling on business. Or in school trying to further my education for my job, right? And I look back on all that time, and I don't really have regrets, because I learned something and took away something from every one of those experiences. It made me who I am today. But hopefully, whatever those events were that shaped me into what I am today, position me better to be the better me that I can be tomorrow, and that I can truly start paying it forward. And so as I fill out my action plan here, and that's what this is again another tool that I've got from this company that I'm working with now is that it helps me really dial in what those personal aspirations are into my action plan. So it's not just about what I want to achieve, but maybe more importantly, it's how I want to achieve it, and then what that final product looks like. You know, it's not just money, but it's the impact that you can have with money. And what's not lost on me is that my day-to-day situation is changed dramatically. I get to work from home now, which it was a little weird at first. It was an adjustment. But once I got my rhythm down, I'm really starting to enjoy that. I get to take my daughter to school every day. I'm home every day. When both kids get home, I get to hear how their day went. I get to attend every event that they have, be it a concert, be it a sports event. You know, one's a musician, artist, the other's more of an athlete. But there were events that I missed because I either had to work late or I was on the road or whatever the case may be, and none of those are good excuses. Yeah, those are events I'll never get back. Well, I don't have to miss that now, right? So that's huge for me. And now, this 5% contribution for me, say what you want about it. You know, there will be those that try to make it seem contrived or selfish, but for me, in my heart, I know that if I can play the smallest part in contributing to the cause of Folds of Honor, that is enormous for me. And I think of all the things that the military did for me, not just what they do for me, providing freedom and the ability to put my head down at night knowing that I'm safe from all the crazy crap going on in the world right now, but also what they provided me with my time in service, the knuckleheaded scraping my knees kind of learnings that I had as I matured from a punk and grew up over those 4 years. The discipline, the focus that it gave me when I got out and went back to school. I feel indebted, although I bitched about it a lot, I'm not going to lie, right? It's kind of like an ass kicking. They aren't pleasant sometimes, but you come out on the other end sometimes a better person. The military for me was a bit like an ass kicking, and things didn't always go my way. And those that are close to me know that I complained quite a bit because things didn't go exactly how I thought that they should, you know, like the world owed Sean Parker something. And that was still a product of my immaturity back then. But regardless, by the time I got out, I'd gotten paid into my contribution to and received the GI Bill, which helped me go back to school, which might have been something that didn't happen for me if I didn't have that help and that money. It provided me, again, the mindset and the self-discipline to do that. So anyway, I think about what the military did for me that way. I think about what the military does for me on a grander scale in terms of the sacrifice. And then I think about those families that are ultimately impacted, that have lost loved ones or have loved ones that have come back maimed. And it humbles me, and it almost makes me feel ashamed that I bitched and moaned about the very small things that didn't go my way in the 4 years that I was in. I'm almost, you know what I am, I'm kind of embarrassed about it. So maybe this is my way of atoning for a little bit of that embarrassment. A lot of it is pride and patriotism, that I grew up in a household, I think, that my parents instilled that those values and you know, that appreciation, I think, in me. It has a heck of a lot to do with that I'm a legacy many times over in my family from former military. So just rattle off a few. My dad was in the Army. My uncle was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Navy and the Army. My Uncle Jerry and I both worked on F-14s. He was in the Navy, obviously. So, guys, I'm all in on it. So that's my deal. But again, to tie it all back to where I was going with this is that with my action plan that I'm going to be filling out, I'm for the first time in my life, I'm not now heading off on a business pursuit or a work pursuit or a professional pursuit just about Sean Parker. It's so meaningful to me to be able to dial in and put in ink on paper that I'm making the success of my business means the success of my contribution to the Folds of Honor. And I'm now not just doing it for myself. I'm doing it for a bigger cause. And frankly, that motivates me a heck of a lot. It always has. When I tend to be the only one that benefits from my efforts, I tend to put in just enough effort. But I have found out and discovered about myself that when I have others that are dependent upon me, that's when I really tend to raise my performance to another level. So anyway, just wanted to share that today. The takeaway hopefully for you guys is I don't know what your personal intrinsic motivation is. I don't know what your personal extrinsic motivation is. And I don't know that you need to figure that out over the next 5 minutes. But I can tell you that I encourage you to do that at some point in some way. It could be on the back of a napkin. It could be sitting down and doing something a bit more formal and structured like this. But I will tell you that once you have that discovery, that it's pretty darn fulfilling. And I hope and I wish that for you, that you do find it, because for me, I couldn't be more energized about this than, again, I don't really know how to put it to words, right? But it's been 46 years and I haven't been enlightened that way. And there's people that have discovered that way sooner in life than me. There's people that have, I'm sure, discovered it later in life than me, and I suspect there's people that never figured it out. But that's what my prayers are for, is for each of you and everybody beyond, that hopefully they do have that discovery and they figure out what that why is in their life, what it is that they aspire to be, how they want to leave their mark for when they're not here one day. So that's all I had. Do me a favor, if you would, just down in the comments section here, type a 1 if that resonates with you. Type a 2 down there if you'd like me to reach out to you and share some of the tools to help facilitate working through your why statement. I'm happy to do that. And as always, if down here on the bottom left, you would hit the share button and get this out to others in your network so that they can listen to it, and would love to help them out any way I can as well. But as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to me. God bless you, and God bless our troops. Take care.